Welcome to this week's Session Spotlight. I'm Paige Taylor. In an announcement on Wednesday, Governor Stitt, along with Republican leadership from both chambers, announced a $12.59 billion state budget for fiscal year 26. The bottom three tax brackets would also be removed in this budget agreement, along with a quarter-point tax cut. Republicans expressed they are happy with this budget agreement.
A huge thank you to the leadership behind us. The appropriations chairs did an amazing job working through all the committees and coming up with a great plan for Oklahomans. And the pro tem, Paxton, is a great leader and really enjoyed our time working together. And we've negotiated in good faith and came up with a good solution. Ronald Reagan used to talk about never getting everything he wanted, and if you could get 80% what you want, then it's a good deal. And so this it's not a governor's budget, it's not a House budget, it's not a Senate budget, but it is the best budget that we put together to make Oklahoma a top 10 state and the most business-friendly state and take care of some priorities that are really important to Oklahomans.
As the folks in this room know, when you have a budget agreement, that's a culmination of the end of session is near. Right? Constitutionally, we have one job in the legislature every year, and that is to pass a budget. That is the one thing we absolutely have to do. For me, this is the 7th year I've been deeply involved in the budget process, and I would say it, to me, feels like the smoothest year in terms of budget negotiations amongst the three stools of the House, the Senate, and the governor. And you know, last fall, when Senator Paxton was elected to be the pro tem designate in the Senate, we had many conversations, the two of us, as well as with the governor, about, you know, how do we do things better? You know, not anything against any of our predecessors, but you know, we're coming in this in a new role. What can we do to make things better for the state of Oklahoma? And I think you've seen a culmination of that throughout this session. That doesn't mean we haven't had disagreements. We certainly have. But we've figured out ways to disagree without being disagreeable and really move the state forward. And it's been a real honor working with these two gentlemen to culminate with this. And just incredibly proud of the members of the House who have put in an incredible amount of work throughout the year. Chairman Trey Caldwell, Vice Chairman John Kane, they have been diligent in seeking input from all of the members of the Oklahoma House of Representatives, and I truly believe they have built a budget from the House's perspective, from the ground up, from perspective of all members. As the governor stated, that does not mean that every member got everything they wanted. I know I certainly didn't, but it does mean that we all had input as we represent our constituents to try to build a budget that makes sense for the state of Oklahoma. And this is a budget to really be proud of. We're still sitting on $3.5 billion of savings. And I love to point out, before the three of us were elected, going back to the Oklahoma's beginning as a state, the state of Oklahoma had never had $2 billion in savings, ever, since statehood. We're at $3.5 billion, to kind of put that into perspective. So that is a great place to be as we prepare for the future.
Senate Minority Leader Julia Kurt held a press conference immediately following the budget agreement and announcement, saying Democrats were left out of these budget negotiations altogether.
We're deeply concerned, definitely concerned about transparency. We did not get details about this budget before this announcement was made. We actually still don't have details because nothing was handed out, but what we can respond to is we saw a tax cut. We did not hear any plans about what will be cut to reach that tax cut. According to staff, what was mentioned will be a $300 to $500 million tax cut when it's all combined. Where's that coming from? What programs are we cutting? What services are we cutting? What I hear from people is that they want to see better public schools, more access to health, and strong infrastructure. And if we're cutting $500 million out of the budget, I want to see where that's coming from. Because to keep a flat budget, to keep cuts, we're going to see that in how people are experiencing their state services. And so I'm deeply concerned about that. And what we see is a real priority around businesses, big business giveaways, corporate giveaways, and making sure things are easy for corporations without considering the working people who are in those companies, who are the people that we represent. And I just want to mention briefly that we each here represent 83,000 people. We should be in this conversation, and we were not. We are talking about more than 650,000 people that we represent, and their voices weren't heard in these final processes, and that's deeply troubling.
In this budget, there are hundreds of millions of dollars invested in health care and medicine. Lawmakers are proposing $200 million for a new OU pediatric heart hospital and $250 million for a new College of Veterinary Medicine on OSU's campus. They also want to spend $312 million to purchase a private prison in Lawton. Lawmakers also outlined policy proposals they hope to get across the finish line, including tort reform and business courts. The legislature said no to a couple of things in the State Department of Education's appropriations request, including $3 million for Superintendent Walters' efforts to put Bibles in Oklahoma classrooms. The proposed budget does include an additional $25 million to be added to the state aid formula. This $25 million increase despite State Superintendent Ryan Walters proposing cuts to his budget. Walters had held an emergency press conference on Friday morning to talk about the proposed tax cut and expressed he is not happy with the proposed budget. He told reporters the proposed income tax cut is too small and called for no income tax this year. He also added he believes there should be no property tax. Many question why the state superintendent was holding a press conference about tax cuts.
People want to know, when is Oklahoma going to step up and defend working class families? Then this week, I see a budget come out where we have the smallest income tax cut possible. We've got Texas has no income tax. We've got Florida that has no income tax. And we're expecting the taxpayers of Oklahoma to continue paying income taxes while they're trying to make ends meet in this economy. I think that's ridiculous. I think it is absurd. I think that there's plenty of time to get back to work and provide real tax relief for families. I believe that it's absolutely essential for the taxpayers of Oklahoma to have no income tax this year. They have demanded that time and time again. There is no reason we should not be able to deliver on that for Oklahomans. And folks, I'm going to tell you right now, what I just told you is going to make me the most hated guy in this building. A deal has been cut. A deal that I don't feel like taxpayers were welcome to the table for. What does revenue and taxation have to do with education? Education is the #1 thing that we fund in this state. And we have a budget that says, don't worry about revenue, don't worry about taxation. We're going to continue to trim around the edges and hope the people like it.
The Oklahoma State Department of Education's proposed administrative rules were heard on the Senate floor this week. In the joint resolution, it outlined for a rule to track students' immigration status to not move forward, as well as a rule to require Oklahoma teachers to take a naturalization test. State Senator Shane Jett tried to amend the resolution to instead pass these rules, but lawmakers tabled that idea. Jett was successful in reversing the course for one rule, however. That rule deals with school donation transparency. The rule would require school districts to document donations over a certain amount, as well as who the donation came from. Jett claims foreign governments have donated to Oklahoma schools in the past.
And right now, if we do not pass this, none of it will be reported officially to us, and we'll be flying blind. Now, as the senator from Senate District 1, appropriate and as it should be, pointed out, he ran legislation to try to address this. Why? Because it is happening. There are funds pouring into our schools, and there is documentation on the previous administration of the Tulsa Public Schools. There was a partnership with the Chinese Communist Party-backed Chinese International Education Foundation, which was a surrogate American not-for-profit that was its front, was funneling money as the Confucius classrooms into the Tulsa public schools. If you vote against this, then you're voting for any funds over $17,000 to not be reported on your public schools' financial statements and not be reported to us. That is the fact. Shake your head all you want. That is the fact.
Those rules now head over to the House. And that's your session spotlight. Check out my Capitol reports every Monday through Thursday on Fox 25. I also provide a look ahead at what bills will be heard throughout the upcoming week on Sundays. For even more in-depth coverage, head over to OKCFox.com.